and the beautiful scenery that you guys have here. Great food. It's just great spirit. The fans love their team, so we love coming.
Game day is kind of set, like wherever game day is that weekend, it kind of sets like the scene for college football.
Yeah.
So what does that mean that you guys, like, for you guys to be able to set the scene for college football that week and being here with this game, a top 10 matchup between a Midwest and a West team?
Well, first, I think we don't ever take that for granted. We've been really fortunate to travel around to. We've been really fortunate for a number of years now to travel around to the biggest game every week, so we now are kind of associated with the big game. And this is one of those games that you could have told, I think in the Rose Bowl, I was even thinking about, wow, Michigan State's going to be playing not just Stanford in the Rose Bowl, but what an opportunity next year when they're going to go to Eugene and take on Oregon. So two huge platforms for them. They took advantage of the first one in the Rose Bowl, and now here they are back out on the West Coast and playing a team that a lot of people feel you can't go into their stadium and beat. So I think it's exciting. We love to be here. We don't take any of that for granted. We try not to be the show. We just try to be a vehicle to deliver all these fun storylines about the sport and what we think is the greatest sport in the world. And I'm happy to be a very small part of it. And as far as the game itself, I'm played in the Big Ten. I'm proud of the Big Ten, but the reality of the Big Ten for the last 7 or 8 years has been down. Michigan State beating Stanford in the Rose Bowl was a great start. And this weekend, Michigan State is playing in a huge high-profile game. Notre Dame's playing Michigan in a high-profile game. Ohio State's playing Virginia Tech. I think it's a great opportunity. Big Ten fans want to know, how do they get a better rep as far as their conference. You play these kind of teams and you beat them. You don't just play with them, you beat them. And if you do that, then I think you start to dig yourself out of the hole. So we'll see if the Spartans can do that.
Michigan State's drawn a lot of comparisons to teams like Stanford for their physicality, but for you personally, what kind of sticks out about them specifically?
Well, I mean, if we're talking about the Michigan State team last year, they were about as physical and nasty a team that I've seen in the last 20 years of doing college football. But Max Bulla is not dressing Saturday. Danico Allen is not here. Isaiah Lewis, Darquez Denard. Those guys were a big part of that defense. So what's exciting is, I'm not saying they can't be that defense this year. It's just we don't know yet. We haven't seen them with these new faces to see if they can be that kind of defense. We know about Dino. We know how he coaches. We know about Pat. We know his beliefs. We know the kind of kids they recruit. But until we really see them in this game against Marcus Mariota and that tempo offense, you're kind of hoping, you're speculating if you're a Michigan State fan, but you really don't know. Dino doesn't know until he sees them in this game. So this is exciting because it's the first game of the year for these two teams where we're going to learn a lot more about them, not just this weekend, but about how serious a player both of these teams are as far as trying to get into the Final Four at the end of the year.
There's a couple offensive linemen banged up for Michigan State. I mean, is there any concerns there, considering Connor Cook's looking to get some protection?
Yeah, I mean, everybody, it seems like this week is focusing, and deservingly so, on Marcus Mariota and the Michigan State defense. And I think that's obviously a great story. But if I'm a Michigan State fan, the Michigan State defense keeps them in the game. And I think if they win or lose, it's going to be based on the way Connor Cook and the Spartans offense plays. And that's what's so different is Michigan State's historically, they're always, the defense kind of leads the way. The offense is just kind of playing efficiently. And based on the way they played in the Big Ten championship game against Ohio State in the Rose Bowl, and now with Connor Cook coming back, Jeremy Langford, all these receivers, even with a banged up offensive line, I think on the outside looking in, there's expectations that this team can score. And so if they're going to win this game, if we are all sitting around together after this game on Saturday night, and we all talked about, man, can you believe that? Can you believe that? And it goes Michigan State's way. My belief is we won't be talking about the Michigan State defense. We'll be talking about Connor Cook and Jeremy Langford and the Michigan State offense.
I was going through tape the other day when you guys were in East Lansing in '99.
Oh, man.
To see what that was like and how it's evolved from '99 to now in the show.
That's crazy.
You guys were down on the field.
Yeah. Oh, my God.
Spartan helmet. Now it's a show. So over the years, what's been your favorite part about doing this?
Wow, that's going back, man.
I've got the tape too.
Yeah, that's crazy. Nick Saban was the head coach. or he just left. Who's it? Bobby Williams might have been there by then. That is a long time ago. The show has changed so much. I started in '96 on the show. This is my 19th year doing it. I think it really started to change maybe 8 or 10 years ago. Not just with, I know that, got him, nailed him. He's determined.
So be careful.
Oh, he got you? Oh no. I think it just started, the sport itself has grown so much in popularity. And I think we just happen to be doing this show for a sport that is growing in popularity. And I'm not trying to downplay this sport or our show. I mean, the NFL is gone to a different galaxy as far as its popularity. Whatever their rating was last night for their opener is just insane. But college football is kind of right there following along behind the NFL. And I think baseball and the NBA and everything else is kind of settling. So we've been along for the ride throughout these last 10 or 12 years. And I think it's just fresh, it's new. You know, there's always new storylines, there's always a new angle, there's a new atmosphere. I mean, we've been here so many times, but it'll feel different because we're talking about Marcus Mariota coming back and what's Connor Cook going to do and which of these teams is going to win and emerge to get to the first ever Final Four. You know, so there's just it's always new. Next week there'll be something new wherever we are. So that's rare in sports to be able to have that, and so to be able to document it for the passion of this sport. Like college basketball, I love it, but I don't have passion for college basketball until March. And I think most fans feel the same way. Our sport, we have passion right now. I mean, we're week 2, and it feels like a bowl game. And this is the only sport where you can really feel that. I mean, last night I'm watching the Packers, a great team against the Seahawks, and at the end of the day, it really doesn't matter who wins or loses that game. Who cares? I mean, unless you're a diehard fan of those two teams. The Packers lost, they can regroup, they're still going to be fine. They'll still go to the playoffs. College football, man, you better be ready to play or you're out. And I think that's part of the popularity of this sport.
That said, then, how much does a loss hurt either one of these teams?
You know, I think it obviously hurts you. I think it depends on how the game's played. I think there's such expectations for both these teams that if they were to battle, play hard, and lose late, I think both teams are able to be forgiven. I think if you get embarrassed, you're done, no matter who you are. If you go out and you lose 44-6, the committee will not forgive you. And I would say because Michigan State's from the Big Ten, and because there's still kind of people that are kind of 1 foot in and 1 foot out and buying into the Big Ten, I would say Michigan State has more on the line. They're traveling all the way across the country. I understand that. They're playing in a hostile environment. I understand that. But if they were to lay an egg, I think they focus then on trying to win a Big Ten championship. But I think realistically they would be a long shot to get into the Final Four. And the same with Oregon. I mean, Oregon's playing in a much tougher conference. But if they were to, for whatever reason, show up flat or they turn the ball over a bunch and Michigan State jumps on them and just beats them up and embarrasses them, I don't think people will forgive them either. So, on the other hand, if they both play well, I think both teams have a chance to just represent themselves, do well, lose 27-24, and I think you lose a little bit for the first couple weeks in the polls, but you still have a chance to get yourself back in.
What do you remember from the first game day visit